All right, Meredith, do you want to start the recording?
Sure. Started. Looks like it's already started.
Okay. Welcome everybody to our Sprint 11 review. And just a heads up, we are recording this session. Here's our burn down chart for this last sprint. I think we still have a bunch of tickets in progress, so I'm assuming this might go down a little bit more today. I know this morning we were all working on stuff, so anticipating this to go down a bit. I'll go through the traffic on all our different sites. So BCMI, pretty steady traffic, except for on the 26th. Actually kind of funny, all of our websites on the 26th got more traffic than usual. I'm not sure why, but maybe, I don't know, maybe the election ended and everybody wanted to go check out the government websites or something. But for BCMI, some of the mines that were more popular were Silvertip and Red Chris. Those seem to be consistently some of the most popular sites or pages visited. And then for Epic, the wood fiber LNG project was visited the most. And Epic actually is having less traffic than it usually sees, like around 300. And I think it's because they only have one open comment period right now, and I don't think that comment period is actually getting a ton of comments when I looked at it yesterday. Oh, it's funny, LNG and NRCED, both about typical levels, maybe NRCED a little bit more than usual. But both sites had either their frequently asked question page or their more info page was popular this last sprint. Yeah, so it's kind of funny that both those pages had those ones visited the most.
Especially considering that NRCED doesn't exactly have a more info page.
They have it's like a very brief, isn't it a more info, like a really brief, there's like a very brief page that has some text on it.
There is?
I think so. I went to it yesterday.
Oh.
Yeah.
I mean, there's the landing page. And, oh, you'll have to show me this mysterious more info page.
Okay, so our goals this last sprint. So our first goal was to move the BCMI work into our production environment and run the data import successfully in production. We are still working on this. We've run into a couple hiccups with the data imports, and so we're still kind of working our way through that. So hopefully that will be complete by this week. And then we did start developing and investigating some of the methods for collecting data for the NRCED website. So we did do some work on that, and the tickets we had brought in for the sprint, we completed those ones for NRCED. All right, so for the demo today, I was going to demo 3 different things. The first one was we have a new, oh, I spelled inspection wrong. We have a new importer added for the BCOGC data. And then we also have, I was just going to sort of walk through the steps, Amy, that you or whoever at EMPR would go through for prepping this data to publish in mine. So kind of when we're in prod, but before we actually post to the public facing site, I was just going to kind of walk through those steps and finally go through the, I was hoping that our dev team would kind of talk us through the data load process that I think we've done quite a few times now. But first I'll show the new importer. So, all right, so in NRPTI, on the import page, here we now have a new import button over here on the right. So import from the BC Oil Gas Commission. So the data that we're importing here used to be actually one of the CSV imports that we were doing, but now we have it automated and it's coming straight from the BCOGC website. So what we're doing is actually pulling, this is the BCOGC website here, we're actually pulling the data straight from this table here. It's a downloadable CSV, so this is the BCOGC inspections. So we're pulling this data automatically. So I'm going to click this button. It's going to say the job has started. I'm in test, so none of this stuff is going to be published anywhere. I'm just going to refresh the page. And down here you can see that this import is now running. So that's pulling in the BCOGC inspections, and it is auto-publishing them to both the NRCED and the LNG site for inspections. So this is an update of our previous, we were doing this by CSV import, so now we kind of have a fully automated process here. I mean, it is from a CSV, but it is on the click of a button instead of somebody dragging it. So while this is loading, I have updated one of our diagrams here that we went through. This massive data connection diagram, I did change on the BCOGC, it now is showing as an automated connection. So that's one sort of check on that big site here, which I think is pretty cool. And in this next sprint, we're planning on doing the orders and amps as well. I'm just gonna refresh again. So I think it just takes a couple minutes to load all of the data. Yeah, so I won't wait and watch it, but this one will run in the background now and be posted to NRCED and LNG and be present in our all records list here. So yeah, that's the BCOGC importer. Now the second thing, or any questions on that, sorry? All right. Oh, and Kyle, just so that you're aware, we have taken that out of here. It's no longer in the CSV.
Yep.
Okay, so the next thing I was going to talk about is the data preparation sort of that EMPR would go through before we post to BCMI. I wrote this out in a slide here, and I'll demo some parts of it. Like I said, we're still walking through our data import, so I'm not going to show everything on BCMI. But I will sort of show the general process that's going to have to happen after we get all of this code in a production environment, and once we get the data successfully loaded into prod. This will be sort of the list of steps that we have to go through for each mine to publish it initially, to publish like the kind of the first time, and then after that it should be a little bit easier to publish new mines. So I'm just going to kind of run through it really quickly in here, but basically it'll be going to a mine first. So say if I was going to go to Brucejack, that'll be the first step. And then just verifying all the data on this page here. So making sure that all of this data is filled out from core, making sure that the type, the description, the summary is all filled out. Currently it's being brought over with this HTML formatting. That doesn't show up on the front end, but we could go in there and delete those symbols as well, and it would still show up just fine. And then just making sure that the external links have been brought over. So I actually already published this mine this morning, but it would actually be unpublished before you did any of this. And then it would be going into the collections for this mine and basically just rebuilding all of the EPIC collections. So I think this is the prod version, like the current version of BCMI. I'm anticipating that we will just sort of use this for reference. So I'd go into Brucejack here, and it has these 5 different Environmental Assessment Act things. So just basically rebuilding these 5 things and then adding any more if there's additional new ones that may have come in. So that's just rebuilding the collections from here. So you can see some of the collections we actually brought over, and they're empty. So these are brought over from mines at EMPR, and we left it empty because we wanted to repopulate them with the documents coming from EPIC. So basically I'd go in here, I could edit this collection, I'd click add existing record, and I'd go over and I'd add the EPIC records to this collection. So that's sort of the third step, is rebuilding these collections. The next step would be just verifying the authorizations tab. So going through more so the Mines Act here. So we're actually pulling over permits from core and pulling over the older documents from mines.empr. So this will probably be the longest step that we'll have to go through, is just making sure that we're not pulling over, we're not posting duplicates. So I think the quickest way to do that is actually going to be on here, the tab on BCMI, go authorizations, go agency, EMPR. And then in here, it'll show you all of the permit and permit amendment documents that are coming over. This source column is a new column that we added this last sprint. Currently it says NRPTI, but it is going to change to either say memadmin, which is the mine.empr, or which is mines.empr, or core. And basically I think the process then will just be to remove all the mines at EMPR1, but just make sure that it's replaced by one coming from core. So I think, Amy, I know we talked about this week, but I think this column will really be helpful once it's updated to say the mem admin.
Definitely, yep.
Yeah, so it'll be pretty quick. It'll just be like a click here and a remove or delete collection. It won't remove the records because we wanted to make sure we had a copy of those, but it will remove that collection so it's not posted on BCMI.
That's perfect.
Yeah, and then other than that, the only last two steps would be to just verify the rest of the tabs. So just go to the Compliance Oversight tab in the current BCMI, make sure we have all these collections, the other documents, make sure we have all these collections. And that's gonna, the good thing about the way we're releasing is that we're gonna have this current version of BCMI available while we're doing this data prep. So we can kind of use this and our version of the public facing BCMI site to compare back and forth quickly to be like, okay, there's these three annual reclamation reports. We can see them here, the documents are all working, and we're good to go. And then finally, so once all that's set up, the last step would basically just be, once we're ready, like once this interregnum period is over and everything, once we're ready, it would just be to publish the mine, and then all those collections and everything would publish automatically. So yeah, that's, any questions on that? I think, I know Amy, you, me, and Nicole went through this already, but I just wanted to make sure everybody kind of understood. Once we get all the stuff in prod, these are sort of the steps we'll have to do for at least the 30 mines that currently exist on BCMI, and then we'll do it for the other 40 after that. Okay. So the next thing I kind of wanted to walk through was our data load process, and I was hoping that the devs on the team could walk us through this. Or somebody, anybody.
I'm happy to do it.
Thank you.
So part of the process of getting this moved over to prod is bringing over a bunch of the existing data, and it has to happen in a number of steps, and the order of these steps matter. So further down the list, it relies on a successful import of the previous ones. So we start by bringing over the data from core, and this is everything to do with mines and permits and permit amendments. After successfully doing that, we run a nightly job that brings over all the documents and then populates all of these amendments and permits with all of the documents from core. And we create a copy of those documents. We don't link out to core directly, so we have them in our own storage. And then after that is our extremely long data load where we pull over all of the data from memadmin and we link it up to the data that we just brought over from core. So this is creating new collections, new records, and also copying over all of the documents. This one usually takes 8 or 9 hours to run, so it's kind of a hefty process. That would be step 3 and 4. And then after that, we run our importers. So we bring over the updated information from Epic, and then we have a few migrations left that kind of link everything up and pull in a few extra details like mine summary and things like that. So the whole process usually takes a day, maybe a day and a half to run. Sometimes we run them overnight. So it's quite a big investment every time we have to do a data reload.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the reason, like we'll find something that's sort of something caused by the data, like a bug or something caused by the data, and then to fix it, we have to run all this stuff again. So it's definitely a time-consuming bug fix that we've been running into the last little while. Yeah, thanks, Kip. Yeah. Any questions on this? All right. All right, so I'm just going to talk about some of the other work that we completed this last sprint. So one of the things we did is we created a user flow for the one of our manual data entry roles that we're going to have in NRPTI, and this is going to be for BC wildfire. And so I'm just going to quickly show what we kind of came up with initially. Oops. Here it is. So this is kind of, Nicole did all this work and we went through all of the different pages within NRPTI, and we're trying to figure out what exactly this person's role would need to access to. So we sort of started over here with when they log into NRPTI. Really, the only thing they need to see is the all records page, and then sort of going through each of the other pages. So the list of all records, which records will they see, when they add a record, what's going to be, what are they going to be allowed to fill out, what can they not see. There's a small amount of private data that BC Wildfire Service would be adding, which is just the name, and I think it's just personal names actually that they would be adding. So that's the piece that we're trying to walk around so that only BC Wildfire can see that, and other manual entry roles would not be able to see that information. So yeah, we kind of came through all the different scenarios, adding a new record, looking at the advanced filters and other records, and reviewing these records. Our next step here is we're going to actually create a user role matrix on a spreadsheet and have all the different kind of actions that a user can take, and then which roles can and cannot do those actions. So that's our next step here, and then we're going to start implementing it, and starting with BC Wildfire. In addition to that, for the BC Wildfire role, we also added, for the records they're going to be adding orders and administrative penalties, and they need to have some of their descriptions and acts and section detail information filled out in the back end. So we completed that as well. So basically now, when a wildfire user, if they go into our system and create an order, they can say, okay, this order is for the Wildfire Act, section 28, and then it's going to automatically have a description pop up in that field. So they don't have to worry about doing any of that. That'll be automated. So that work was completed. We also updated our BCMI release process. And one big thing that we did with that was we set up a sort of a prod staging area. So this is so that Amy and whoever at EMPR can go in there and prepare all this data before we release. And then once the interregnum period's over, we can shift everything over to the real prod that we're calling our static prod right now. Move everything over to there, and then make it so it's not static anymore, and it's updated with all of the new data and all of the new features. So that was a big chunk of work we completed, and then we had a couple of tickets preparing for OpenShift 4 for moving Epic over to OpenShift 4. Oh yes, and finally, so the BCMI success criteria, we're still sort of paused on here because we haven't been able to post anything yet. So I imagine after the election or the interregnum period's over, we'll be able to get these moving again. It did start making a NRCED success criteria page. This one is still, I think, we talked about this during discovery, but these are sort of 6 different success criteria things, and a lot of them are just increasing the amount of data that we're holding, increasing the different business areas, the total number of records, the total number published to NRCED, things like that. And my goal here is I'm actually gonna, Kyle, I think you and I can work together and create like actual goals for each of these. I sort of started with this first one. Basically, I think right now we currently are bringing in 3 different business areas data. And I think our goal for this next chunk of work will probably be closer to 9.
Yep.
Yeah, so this page will change. I just sort of started this, and then once we figure out the exact goal for some of these success criteria, I'll put them in here.
Yep.
One of the things, this one here, this increase in total number of records published in NRCED, paused because of the interregnum period.
Yep.
And then down here, the one we did actually move forward on this last sprint was the increase in number of systems we're getting data from. So we had 2 that were fully automated and 2 partially automated. I think I need to actually change this, but now we have 3 fully automated and just 1 partially automated.
Yep.
Yeah. So this page will change, and I just wanted to sort of get a start here once we started working on it.
Yep, for sure.
And finally, upcoming. So some of the work we're going to is we are going to move our BCMI work to production. So get the code in there and then get this mine data loaded in there successfully. We also want to move the Epic develop environment to OpenShift 4 this next sprint. And then for NRCED, I'm hoping we can get the ALC inspections in. We're going to look at doing that via CSV import. and then automating the BCOGC orders and AMPs. So get those into NRPTI so that we can publish them to NRCED. And then finally, we are looking into, and I think, Kristen, this is the one we were talking about yesterday, but investigating an implementation strategy for the Flynn Row data that's coming from NRIS. So that's kind of, we have a big spike that we're hoping to do this next sprint as well on that. Yeah, any questions? All right, that concludes our sprint 11. Thanks everyone for joining.
Good job, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks.